Give me 1 second here, guys. Okay, everything seems to be working. Oh, hold on. Properties. Perfect. Let me turn this down just so my voice is a little bit higher than it is all I need. Okay, there we go. This should be good. Let me double check on my phone real quick just to make sure that it sounds good. Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. This should be good. Let me double check on my phone real quick just to make sure that it sounds good. Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. This should be good. Okay, awesome. So we are going to be studying our hazmat test we have to do tomorrow. Monday, I have to do it 1 p.m. set. So I just have to go do that real quick. And this is a website, if you do not know. This ChristCDL.com is amazing if you're doing anything for your CDLs. They have any state you could want, and they have any test you could want for any of your stuff here. Like you have your school bus combination, double, triple tanker, trailers, blah, 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 tanker, pre-trib, whatever. You don't need to do these pre-trib inspections. You should do that in your class you take, which is fine. You'll learn that. But let's get on with this. I need to do my hazmats here, and I need to do my tankers here. So they have 4 of the hazmat and 3 of the tankers, and we're going to start taking these tests here. We'll start off with test number 1. How many different hazmat classes are there? There's 9 different hazmat classes. When play card, you can do placard. I just call it play card. It's a little easier. Just play card, placard, whatever. Play card must be used with a inhalation hazard load. That is a poison inhalation hazard, obviously. It makes sense. A truck carrying explosives has crashed with another vehicle. You should not pull them apart until the explosives have been placed 200 feet away from the vehicles. Yep. The shippers package hazardous materials. They must certify that it is done according to regulation. The only exception is when the shipper is a private carrier carrying his or own product. What signals may be used to warn of a stopped vehicle that contains explosives? Well, if it contains explosives, you do not want to use anything that has fire. Makes sense. I don't know what's going on outside. Okay. Class 8 is play carded as corrosive materials. If you look here, this will have this website here, saferack.com, has a list of all of the things. Number 1 is explosives, 2 is flammable gases, 3 is flammable liquids, 4 is flammable solids, 5 is oxidizers, which is also flammable, 6 are poisons, 7 is radioactive, 8 is corrosive, and then 9 is miscellaneous. And to get to this website, all I did was look up right here. That's my play cards, images, and I scroll down. I've seen this. Boop, boom, brings you to this, and you just scroll down, and there it is. Okay. Anyways, back to this. Yep, class 8 is corrosive materials. The transport index of a radioactive material tells you the degree of control needed during transportation. A properly prepared uniform hazardous waste manifest must be signed by the carrier and anyone transporting the material. Basically, the uniform hazardous waste manifest tells you what you need to do when a accident does happen with your hazardous material that you're having. A and W, the first column of the hazardous materials table means that it's only restricted when it's shipped by air and water. When is it necessary to ground the trailer? Oh, hold on, we got an ad. Okay. Actually, let me get this going. Just a little bit. Okay. When is it necessary to ground the trailer? Sorry, back on track. That is when you're filling unloading in a flammable liquid tank. Must be grounded until the filling hole is properly closed. The total transport index of a radioactive material packages in a single vehicle must not exceed 50. Which of the following must drivers have in their possession while transporting explosives? Either of these explosives, you have to have a written route plan. You don't need the carrier's insurance policy. It's stupid. You just need a written route plan. On a public roadway with a placarded tanker hauling flammable liquids, when can you transfer from one to the other? You can only do that in an emergency. If in the materials class is the word forbidden, what kinds of materials are you still allowed to haul? You cannot haul forbidden cargo. It's in the name. It's forbidden for a reason. What is the size of the placard? At least a 250 millimeter square diamond. If you look, they're all diamonds. They're all diamonds. Or you can call it a square, like a diagonal square, but they're diamonds. When hauling packages of explosives, you must never use hooks or other metal tools. Those can cause sparks, and those can cause explosions. Sorry. Which of the following, if required, must the shipper put on the package? They must put all of these. They need the label, they need the hazardous material shipping name and the identification number, and the name of the address and shipper or co-signee. Whenever your vehicle is placarded, do not drive near open fires unless you can safely pass the fire without stopping. Or equip the fire sprinkler. That's dumb. That doesn't make sense. Or have the tow. Yeah, no. A hazard class name or ID number may not be used to describe a non-hazardous material. You should not describe a hazard class name if it's non-hazard. So that makes sense. Column 1, or the symbol column I, means that it is international transportation. What action should you take if you discover a hazardous material shipment leaking at a rest stop when no phones are available? You need to send someone for help with all the necessary information. In what location must you keep your shipping papers that describe any hazardous materials? You keep that on the driver's seat when you're out of the vehicle. You must never smoke or perform any activity involving a fire within 25 feet of 1, 2, 3, or 4 explosives, liquids, gases, and number 4, which is your combustible, your oxidizers. all these you cannot smoke around. What is the purpose of a driver play carding the vehicle or placarding the vehicle? That is to communicate risk. If you are already carrying 100 pounds of silver cyanide, what precautions must you take in order if you are given papers at a dock to carry 100 cartons of battery acid? The answer is you don't. You inform somebody and you do not load the battery acid. The other two places where hazardous material identification number must appear: on any of the bulk packaging and on the cargo tanks. When there is a hazardous materials emergency, what should you do? You should do both of these: prevent people from smoking, keep open flames away, and keep people away and warn them of the danger. Whose signatures must be on the hazardous waste manifest, which is the manifest that basically tells you what to do in a emergency. The shipper, all the carriers, and the receiver. To obtain a hazardous materials endorsement, you must know how to play card your vehicle. You don't have to identify different types of hazardous materials by the smell or appearance. You don't have to package different types of anything. That's for the shipper. A shipping paper for hazardous materials must include both of these. They need the page numbers if it has more than one page, and they need the description with each material and their certification that everything is prepared according to regulations. Okay, now we'll take test number 2. The driver must also always carry on his person a dated certificate signed by the employer. The certificate must be updated every 3 years. That is, yes, AX or RQ in the HM column of a shipping paper entry. The shipment is regulated by the hazardous materials regulations. That's all that means. When there is a hazardous materials emergency. Oh, we got an ad. Okay, sorry. When there's a hazardous materials emergency, you should, all the answers correct, prevent them from smoking and keep them away from the danger. A play card is shaped, what did we just see? Diamond. Which of the following choices is a hazard class you are not allowed to smoke around? All of these: explosives, oxidizers, and flammables. Oxidizers are considered flammable solids.
Hey, are you hungry? Do you want anything to eat or drink?
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. Which of the following is one of the 3 keys to identify which play card to use? It is the hazard class and the amount being shipped. If there is an RQ before or after the item description, it means that you are required to report any spills. If the symbol column, the letter G stands for the proper shipping name, which one or more technical names of the hazardous material, along with a description. Drivers with a plate carded vehicle transporting hazardous weight materials must stop 15 to 50 feet from the nearest railroad. Carriers must give each driver who transports explosives a copy of the FMCSR or Part 397. Animals and foodstuffs should not be loaded with the same vehicle as poisons. That just makes sense. You shouldn't put those together. A safe haven is a place that you can leave a vehicle unattended that is hauling explosives. What is the best description of a safe haven? Okay, sorry. So this one is any property that's been government approved for this use. Who is responsible for finding out what permits or special routes you'll need while you haul the hazardous materials? That's the driver. It's all the driver. It's all you, all the driver. Sorry, this is like tweaking out. I don't know what's happening. You do not have a hazardous materials endorsement on your commercial vehicle license. You can never drive hazardous materials. Nitric acid cannot be loaded above any other product because if it does eat through any of the metal or anything that's on the container it's in, it will seep onto whatever is underneath of it. When the shippers package the material, they are trying to make it easy to identify. These don't make any sense and these are stupid. That's the first one. To determine if you need to use plate cards, what is something you do not need to do or need to know? You don't need to know the manufacturing date. What if falls is not an acceptable type of marking for hazardous materials? Name in italics. They are all in Roman print. They are not in italics. If you look, Roman print, there's no italics. What is the following of 3 hazards should not be placed into a temperature controlled trailer? Explosives, flammable gases, and flammable liquids do not need temperature controlled trailer. A quick Marvel rivals in the corner kind of distracted me. Okay. What are the major differences between cargo tanks and portable tanks? All of these are major differences. The cargo tanks are filled while they're on the vehicle. Portable tanks can be off or on. Cargo tanks are permanently attached to the vehicle when portable tanks are temporarily attached. Portable tanks must show the owner's or lessee's name on them. Hazardous materials table has 8 columns. To communicate risk of hazardous materials, shippers do all the following except have their drivers text them their location. A hazardous materials identification number is determined by the shipper. You have loaded a hazardous material into a cargo tank. What must you do before you move the vehicle? You must close all the manholes and valves to make sure they're free of any leaks. If you have a vehicle without racks to hold cylinders or compressed gas, you may load such cylinders only if they are loaded upright or laying down flat and braced. When transporting chlorine in cargo tanks, you must have both of these. You must have a gas mask and you must have an emergency kit for controlling the leaks. When can the shipping name or the hazardous materials identification number be abbreviated on the shipping paper? only if regulations specifically authorize the shipper to do it. Your engine runs a pump when you are delivering compressed gas. After finishing delivery, when should you turn your engine off? Turn it off before you unhook the hoses. Which of the following materials is an acceptable floor linage for transporting explosives? A non-ferrous material. Where are two main places that hazardous identification numbers appear? On the shipping papers and the packages. On the shipping papers and on a secret document is crazy. And the driver's wallet is funny. But yeah, it's just the shipping papers and the packages. Perfect. Let's do number 3. You can't haul you can't haul explosives. I'll just call it explosives with radioactive materials. When fueling a plate-carded vehicle, someone must always be at the nozzle controlling the fuel flow. What is a Chemtrack's primary job? It is to coordinate and advise companies on spills, and they also link up authorities with those companies. How many identical plate cards is a vehicle hazard? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so basically how many plate cards or placards is a vehicle supposed to have? It has 4. It has 1 on each side of the vehicle so you can see them from all sides. With most hazardous materials, you may park within 5 feet of the road briefly, if it requires it. What materials are the exceptions? Do not allow parking close to the road. Explosives. Who is responsible for checking to be sure it's a shipper correctly named, labeled, and marked all the material shipment? That is the carrier. Prior to the transportation, the carrier checks it, make sure it's all done. There are 3 lists that drivers, shippers, and carriers use to find out if a material is regulated as hazardous. Which of the 3 choices is not one of them? The dangerous list. That's not used for regulating a hazard, if it's hazardous or not. Who is responsible for safely transporting a hazardous material shipment without delay and keeping the shipping papers in the right place? The driver. Yep, you're the one that's safely transporting a hazardous material. That makes sense. You were the ones doing that. If a spill occurs with an RQ substance, the carrier has within blank to report a spill. It's 30 days. It's a month. You're going to be hauling hazardous materials over a route you do not know well. When should you check the route and get permits needed for the trip? You should do that well before you even start the route. A placarded vehicle is required at a combustible liquid at more than 119 gallons. Column 1, a symbol D means domestic transportation. That's not detonators. That's goofy. Domestic transportation. It may not be proper for international transportation. That's what that means. A technical name. The technical name is right here. The hazardous is a name for the hazardous material used in scientific journals, texts, microbiology stuff. Which of the following hazard classes uses a transport index to determine how much you can load? That is radioactive materials. Determines how much you can load as a transport index. Sorry about that. I just had food delivered. Okay. Which of the following are necessary qualifications for non-bulk packaging? It's all the above. For liquid, 119 gallons, water capacity, 1,000 pounds, 322 pounds. Why does the government regulate why does basically the government regulate transportation of hazardous waste? It's because they pose a health risk and a safety risk because they're toxic materials. A properly prepared uniform hazardous waste manifest must be signed by everybody. Identification numbers are preceded by the numbers UN or NA. The letters NA are associated with proper shipping names that are used where? US and Canada. Give me 1 second, let me eat my food here for a second. You may not park a vehicle carrying hazardous materials within blank feet of an open fire, 300 feet. The type of fire extinguisher required in the power unit of a placarded vehicle. 10 BC, 5 BC if it's non-hazmat, 10 BC if it is. To find out if a shipment includes hazardous materials, you should look at the shipping papers. Cylinders containing compressed gases may only be loaded in the vehicle without a flat platform. If the cylinders are, give me 1 second. Loaded upright or horizontal position, loaded into the racks, or in boxes, keep them from turning over. If you're hauling hazardous materials and you find that one of your tires is leaking, you must stop at the nearest safe place and fix it. Oh, sorry. First one I missed. Shipping papers must always be kept in one place when driving with hazardous materials. When wearing your seatbelt. In the pouch and driver's door, always within reach. All of them are correct. Same. It's okay. You've loaded the hazardous material into a cargo tank. What must you do before you can move the vehicle? Close all the manholes, valves, and make sure that they are free of leaks. The hazardous materials identification numbers must be displayed on the portable tanks, cargo tanks, other bulk and packaging. The regulations require black numbers, black 100mm numbers. Emergency response guidebook.
It's your home, a place that's filled with memories.
As all the above. So they contain identification numbers, which is why you must label it correctly. It was also created by the U.S. and is used nationwide. And is studied for emergency personnel to keep the public safe. Yes. Okay. You should stop before crossing a railroad grade if you are carrying any amount of chlorine, even if it's empty. You have to stop before railroad crossing. If you are in an accident involving hazardous materials, you should keep people as far away and upwind of the accident. It is recommended that when hauling a load of explosives, to use fuses instead of warning triangles. Now, because those are flammable and you're hauling explosives, so you shouldn't do that. Perfect. And that's number 4. Who is responsible for packaging, labeling, and preparing? Materials, shipping papers, common carrier. That is the shipper. Class 1.1 explosives must not be transported with accommodation if the vehicle includes. Oh, sorry, a placarded cargo tank. Okay, a vehicle contains 500 pounds of these explosives. You must use explosive 1.1. Railroad crossing is ahead of you, and you are housing hazardous material. When you stop for the crossing, you stop away as far as 50 feet from the nearest rail. The hazardous waste manifest should be tabbed differently and kept on top of all the other paperwork. Column 1, if the symbol has a plus sign, it means there we go. The proper shipping name without regard whether the material meets the definition of that class. How often should you check the tires on a placarded trailer that has dual tires? Every single time you stop. Whenever you load or unload a cargo tank, a qualified person must be within 25 feet. Containment rules specify how to package, load, transport, and unload hazardous material safely, how to contain spills, how to drive. This is this one. Containment rules show you how to package, load, transport, and unload them safely. Smoking must be within 25, or at least 25 for most of the materials. And a hazardous material table. Column 3, any shipping name written in italics means it isn't the proper shipping name. Those in Roman towns, Roman type above it. If hazardous materials are spilling from your vehicle, do not move your vehicle any more than safely required. How often must the driver that has a hazmat endorsement on their CEO retake it? It is every 5 years. Do you need to stop before railroad crossing if you are hauling 100 pounds of Division 4.3 materials? Yes. 4 should be flammable solids. Yeah. You're transporting hazardous materials. When you are not behind the wheel, the shipping papers must be on the driver's seat or with you. Oh. My bad. In the pouch of the driver's seat. This is probably the worst one I've done. Which of the following is a proper definition of a cargo tank? Is the bulk container that's permanently attached to the vehicle. A truck has hazardous material. That's hazardous material. When can it be moved without plate guards on the truck? Oh, to protect the life of... Ah, my gosh. I remember this one too, and I messed it up. Rest in peace. The basic description of a hazardous material includes the hazard class, the ID number, and the proper shipping name. Which of one must appear on the shipping paper? It should be the identification number, sorry. A vehicle contains 500 pounds of 1.1 explosives. It's explosives play card. When hauling hazardous materials, you must check any dual tires at the start of each time you stop. Each of the 3 classes should not be loaded into a trailer that has heated. All these should not be loaded into the intent of hazardous regulations for safety and control of the vehicle is to communicate the risk. If you're carrying Division 1 or 1, basically explosive materials. How far away must you park from a traveled part of the roadway? Oh. Okay. Why must the shipper sign the shipping paper? Yes. To certify that's Within regulations, you find an overheated tire during an inrush. So if you're out of energy, you must. Remove the tire, place the safe distance. The transport index of radioactive materials tells the degree of control needed during the transitions. Air and water, we already went through this one. Only when okay. Intended hazardous materials regulations. Communicate the risk, same thing. Which of the following must drivers have in their possession while transporting explosives or written route plan? There are 3 lists that drivers, shippers found out regulation hazardous, and that is the EPA dangerous materials list. We passed barely, but that's a little troublesome on that one. Okay, let's go do tankers. Hauling liquids in tankers requires special care for 2 reasons. One reason is the high center of gravity. You're driving a tank truck, and the front wheels begin to skid. Which of them are most likely going to occur? You'll most likely continue straight and keep moving forward no matter how much you steer. How far back does the helper stand when pumping and unloading liquids? 25 feet. Outage means the allowance for expansion of liquid. Side-to-side surges can cause a rollover. You need to be extremely cautious when... See, these are only 20 questions on here, and you only need 16 to be right. You need to be extremely cautious when driving smoothbore tankers. This is especially true when starting and stopping, because it's unbaffled, and they have nothing inside it to slow down the surge from back and forth. Liquid in a tank with baffles can have what kind of surge? If they have baffles, it'll be side to side. It'll go shoosh, 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 shoosh. Because it's like... See this? You got baffles here. They each have little holes on each side and the bottom, and they stop them from all the way going forward and all the way going back, but they can still go back and forth like this. When your play card tank has baffles, what handling effect could you expect? There will be less front to back surge. It's true. Which of the following statements about stopping distance is true? Okay. Which of these statements about tankers and their center of gravity is true? Much of the load's weight is carried. Yeah, okay, both of these are true. Most of the load's weight is high off the road. Tankers can turn over at speed limits posted for curves. Basically, they just need to go really slow. If you have a tank vehicle and endorsement, you can to drive a vehicle with 119 gallons or 1,000 gallons. When should you inspect a tank vehicle? Before driving it and unloading it. To control surge, was the best way to brake? Steady foot on the brake and don't release the brake too soon. When must the tank be unbaffled? If it has to stay very clean, it has to be unbaffled. Which of these is the most important thing to remember about emergency braking? If the wheels are skidding, you cannot control the vehicle. I mean, that's just a normal CDL question too. If you must make an emergency stop brake, emergency stop brake so that your vehicle will stay in a straight line. That's all they care about. It's control braking or stab braking. If your vehicle has any of the following equipment, then what needs to work properly? All of these. The vapor cover kits, the grounding cables, emergency shut-offs, they all need to work. If a hill or curve keeps drivers behind you from seeing the vehicle within 500 feet, The rear triangle should be moved back down the road for adequate order. When you load the small tanks of cargo tank equipped with bulkheads, you should check your weight distribution. Weight distribution is very high. Should you unload smaller tanks of a tank with bulkheads? Carefully check the weight of distribution. How would you expect a truck with cargo tank that has baffles to handle on the road? There'll be less front to back surge. Separations between compartments inside tanks, they are called baffles. Separations between compartments inside the tanks. An emergency forces you to stop your tanker quickly or crash, you should use controlled or stab braking. The best way to take a curve with a tanker is a slow safe speed before entering the curve and then accelerate slightly as you go through it. When loading a tanker that has 3 of the 4 valves at the bottom of the tanker, you should have the valves closed. Obviously, if you're loading it, you need them closed so they don't just drop on the floor. Outage depends on the type of liquid. Outage is just that's what that is. If you steer quickly while braking, your tanker may roll over. You may not be able to fill the tanks completely because the liquid may. Oh, sorry. Both of these are true. What should you do if you get stuck on railroad tracks? Get out of your vehicle and away from the tracks. A vehicle placarded for hazardous materials must have plate cards on 4 sides. How can you start moving without it rolling back? All these ready. Needed for the liquids, you can carry it because some liquids expand more than others. I feel like some music has gotten louder. Okay. If you're driving on a clear night, you must dim your headlights to high or low. You should adjust your speed so you can stop within the distance that you can see ahead. That's just a CDL question. It's not even this one. Empty trucks require longer distance stopping distances than full ones. Baffles and liquid cargo tanks do not usually prevent the movement from side to side. Baffles are just front to back, not side to side. Liquid tight separations between compartments inside the tanks are called bulkheads. The move of liquid in the partially filled tanks is called surging. A tank adjustment is required for certain vehicles that transport liquids or gases. When loading a tank with bulkheads, don't put too much weight on the front or rear of the vehicle. On a long steep down there, once you've reached your safe speed, until you are going 5 miles per hour slowly. Manhole covers should be closed before you drive the vehicle. If you do not have an automatic tank drain, when should you drain your air tanks? That is at the end of each working day. That's just a CDL question too. Especially, exactly how should you inspect your tank vehicle? Sorry. Okay, whatever. A smoothbore tank is known as an unbaffled liquid tank. Liquid surge is especially dangerous I mean, on any hills, but I guess slippery roads too. That makes sense. Which of these statements about emergency steering in tankers is true? A tanker is easier to counter-steer than most vehicles. That's probably a lie. When making a quick steering movement, do not apply the brakes. You should wrap your thumbs around the steering wheel before starting a quick. Yeah, don't apply the brakes when you're turning. You should be extremely cautious when driving smooth or tankers, especially when you are starting and stopping. If you drive a tank vehicle that you know is leaking, you may receive a citation and it won't work. If a vehicle is placarded, you must stop blank 15 to 50 feet. To correct a rear-wheel drive braking skid, you should stop braking, quickly turn, and counter steer. When you're pre-triggering your tanker, you should check for leaks. What does liquid surge do to the handling of a tanker? Surge can move the truck in the direction the waves move. Surge, let's see, turn corner side. Surge reaches the window. No, surge moves the truck in a direction. Hauling two tankers, where should the weight be carried? In the middle. Oh, okay, I guess in the front. You should know that your brakes are fading when okay, well this is also true when your brakes are spongy, but also you have to push harder to control your speed. That's the same thing. The amount of liquid to load into a tank depends on both of those, the legal limit and the amount that will expand. Which the statements about managing space to the sides is true? Hauling liquids in a tank tank vehicles require special care for 2 reasons. One reason is liquid movement. Low tankers are said to have high center of gravity. What does this mean? Tanker has lost its brakes. When should the driver use a truck escape ramps? Always. When hauling hazardous materials, you must check the dual tires at the start and stop of each trip. Okay, I mean, I think I'm pretty well ready for this. This is the one for Maryland. If you go to this, it lets you select any of your any states. I just so happen to be in Maryland. And then you can do your general knowledge tests. And then you can do any of these as well. They have all sorts of stuff. But this is almost exactly identical to what's on the actual MVA test. And I hope you guys enjoy.